Hello, today we are going to be taking a look at the 1987 Nikko Typhoon or Typhon radio control car. This is one of the cars that I had when I was a kid, so why don't we hop over to the sofa and take a closer look. So here we have the 1987 Nikko Typhoon or Typhon frame buggy 1/14 scale. It does say Typhoon here in Japanese. Typhon I think is English, so that's kind of an interesting thing. 1987. There were a few other things coming out at the time, so I'll just put this off to one side and hold this up sideways. Now I've loosened the body shell because we'll look under there momentarily, but if I hold it up kind of that way, there we go. You can kind of see certain features of this are similar to the 1987 Nikko Super Fox, and I did some research. The 87 Super Fox was in the Argos Autumn-Winter catalogue for £72.95. For inflation, adjusted for inflation, that's £172. However, at the time, if I reach over here, here we go. Oh, I'm going to make a mess of the microphone. Here we go. Here is the Tomy Turbo Tuning dashboard. And this is a bit of a beast. This was for sale a year later in the 1988 catalogue for £17.95. So, 88, 87, that's what your money was getting you. I'm going to put that off to one side again. Little car, come over here. I'm hoping you're in focus this time because I've recorded this before and it was all out of focus and I was very sad. It has a gun type controller. It's actually like a wheel type, they call it. Very short throw of the wheel, left and right. Reverse is forward. And then you pull back and you've got low and turbo. Because it was the 80s, everything was in turbo. One of the things you need to be aware of if you're buying one of these secondhand, these aerials unscrew. And if this thing doesn't have its metal aerial, well, it ain't going to do much. It also has a little power button here, which is only on because it's got an auto-off feature. When you just don't do much with it, leave it for a bit, it'll just turn itself off, and it takes one 9-volt dry cell battery, which is the other problem. You've got to make sure these contacts are clean, because if people have left one of these in for 30 years, then these contacts might be corroded. You could probably put a little bit of vinegar on there and get the contacts cleaned up a bit, you know, alkaline versus vinegar, acid. What do we got here? So that's positive. That's positive. It's going to go that way. Hashtag not spawn. Let's put that in there and just... There we go. So if we push the button, boop, that's going to be on for a bit and then it'll just kind of go off. So is there anything else interesting about this? There is. I have written some notes because trying to do this without writing notes is very, very difficult. So it says 1/14 scale here. It's going to be very hard to read this, the sticker, so you're just going to have to bear with me. It's in Japanese and it says red body in brackets and then underneath Typhoon again. Not Typhon, it says Typhoon here. And I'm like, oh, okay. 27 megahertz, I believe the European one was something like 27.27. Not entirely sure why, but there is a little bit of interference when you're driving it around. And if you touch the aerial with anything, your hands or a bit of metal, this car will jump. And I do remember that happened in the 80s. We're not dealing with a modern like Wi-Fi controller, so this works on 2.4 gigahertz. This is a drone controller. What it does is it binds, so it chooses a frequency. It agrees on a frequency between the drone and it, and so the drone and it use that frequency. In the old days, you and a friend could buy a radio control car and you'd both be on 27 megahertz, so your controller would control his car and his controller would control your car, or you'd be controlling the car next door. I mean, it was all a little bit more Wild West back then. So I'm going to put you off to one side. In fact, I'm going to put you on the floor because I do have another body shell. Boom, another body shell. This has all the livery on it. This one doesn't. So you can just buy body shells off of eBay where people are just kind of breaking the cars, which is sad. Again, relatively clean. There's a bit of scuffing on the little window. The window does unscrew here. So if you wanted to change this bit of plastic, one of the problems is if it's been driven indoors, it might have been driven into furniture and there's like scuff marks across here. Again, some of the stickers, you can kind of feel the edges coming away. Here's one. You might be able to just glue it back on with a little bit of contact adhesive, but you know, it is what it is. 30-year-old glue holding on 30-year-old stickers. but that's the original livery. This would have said Typhoon, and this would have been silver on the European version, so I'll put that off to one side. We do have a lot of Japanese writing on here, so obviously the European box would have had European. There's a reason we went with the Japanese version, and it's to do with the batteries, but not for the reason you think. So we have here Typhoon. We have some little bullet points here which we can go through. So we have the 2-channel full action. Sorry. 2-channel super full action in Japanese. Speed and steering can be controlled independently, so that's in those brackets. This is a very important thing because in the old days, if you bought a car from, say, Argos or any place, you might not have steering when you're driving forward. That's a thing to look out for with old radio control cars. It would only steer when it was reversing and maybe only left or right, because they had limited channels, so that was a thing. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. This has super full everything, which means it can steer while going forward, which is why it was expensive. You know, this stuff wasn't cheap at the time. In fact, if you do look at the 1987 Argos catalogue, you'll see that there weren't any more remote control cars after 87 until the 90s, like 93 when they started showing up again. I guess people just didn't have the money to buy them. Next one down. So we have speed 2x2 when moving forward, running at 2 speeds by operating the transmitter, low and high. So here we are. We have reverse, which is back and forward, which is low, and turbo, so low and high. Why turbo? Why turbo means fast? It was the 80s. So you got a lot of black and red, and you got a lot of turbo. Front suspension, trailing arm. Rear suspension, rigid axle. Okay, so the front suspension, it's just these little springs here. So independent suspension on the front. How do we do this? Kind of push it up slightly. Yep, independent suspension on the front, and the rear. Rear. The whole rear goes down with one axle, so the axle kind of bounces and the front wheels kind of bounce. Boop, 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 boop. Rear wheel differential gear mechanism. Rear wheel differential gear mechanism. Okay, cool. That is why this thing won't drive on the sofa. Because when one wheel is off the ground, the other one ain't going to do much. But it does mean it's actually got a proper diff. So if I go and, so if we can do this, turn one wheel one way, the other one goes the other way. If I can turn them both. That just means that when it goes around a corner, the axle actually has a proper split diff on it. And it means one wheel can go faster than the other, so it doesn't scuff a wheel going around a corner. Front and rear pin spike tire installation. So these tires, that's the pin spike tires, and that is, I mean, if you look at the rear tires, if you see one from the 80s that's been driven like I did when I was a kid, well, I mean, I'm sorry, but I really wore those tires down. So what else have we got? Yep, the wheel type transmitter with auto off switch mechanism. We've looked at that. The wheel type is literally a car's racing wheel. The light comes on. The button actually turns it on, but you can just touch any of these controls and eventually that'll go back off again. We've also got the battery box for 6 AA batteries and a 3-month warranty. 1987, I think our warranty is completely dunzo Calrissian. Down here, you probably can't read it, but it says, battery used, brackets, sold separately. It is 2 9-volt dry cell batteries. So the first one is two 9-volt dry cell batteries. There is a 9-volt dry cell battery in here for the radio mechanism, and we saw one go into the handset of this bad boy here. So that's where your 2 9-volt dry cell batteries are going. Yeah, if you're buying one of these, make sure the battery compartments and connectors are all clean, because after 30 years, if someone's left a battery in there and it's leaked, then it's a pain in the butt to deal with. It's not impossible, but it is a pain in the butt. The next one down, it says 1 times 7.2 battery. So that's a 7.2 volt battery pack. The European one had a 7.2 volt battery pack, which there's a little tag here, which it plugs into. So the 7.2 volt battery pack is very, very important, and I'll get to that momentarily. The European version had a European 3-pin socket charger that would charge the battery. I don't know if you had the AA battery holder in Europe. I'm not entirely sure. However, you can also use 6 NiCad batteries, and it says in the yellow, for NiCad battery only, and they say this pretty much everywhere. They say it on the warranty card, they say it on the actual battery holder itself, they say it under the car, everywhere. There is a reason for this. NiCad batteries run at 1.2 volts and store-bought alkaline batteries run at 1.5 volts. You need rechargeable batteries in this, otherwise you'll Napoleon blow apart your RC car. So don't do it. Don't do it. That would be bad. All right. So, is there anything else to look at on the box? Well, not really. If I move you off to one side, old chum. Yep. So, this is the super full motion. So you can go forward, left and right, and you can go rear, left and right. Kind of a big thing in the 80s. Anything else? Oh, hello. There's the battery pack. So, I mean, you can see these on eBay for European versions of the car. But it was just a big battery pack. Essentially, it had a bunch of like industrial AA's inside, which I believe don't have the nipple on the positive terminal. And they just ended up like soldered in series, I think. And then you have like a local battery charger. Now, if you buy one with a battery pack from the 80s, you've got a 30-year-old battery pack. It might be worth getting the battery holder and just putting a set of fresh rechargeable batteries in your car, which is, I think, the default for the Japanese version. There's nothing else much on the front. There's a little safety certificate, safety sticker. Frequency is 27 megahertz. And it says Nikko down here, 1987, Nikko made in Japan. And there's a little Nikko symbol there, so good. But this is the car. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Oh, it is actually beautiful. I did buy another body shell because I was thinking, well, you know what? I can just lift this body shell off. Ooh, can I lift this body shell off? I think I can. It's only 3 screws. Let's see. There we go. Oh, I'm not going to take it all the way off because the end of the aerial has a little anti-stab device. So it is bent just here. The aerial just bent just here, which is why it kind of pokes forward. I don't know why. I don't know why it would be bent just there. The aerial is screwed to the plastic chassis here. We have a metal spring and silvered plastic spring holders front and back. We have discrete components. So if anything breaks, there's a bunch of discrete components on the circuit board. Is that in focus? I genuinely don't know. I kind of hope so. We have jumper wires, actual physical jumper wires. I'm not going to take this apart any further than I need to because, you know, I don't need to. But if you get one and something's wrong here, chances are you can put a voltmeter on it. Disassemble this, no problem. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws here, 5 screws. On the back, just while we're here, we have a couple of braces here, and I think what these are essentially just a backstop, because when the shell is on, there's nothing to stop the car hitting anything, and that's just to protect the motor, which is in the top, and the differential, which is in the bottom. So the differential housing, and then we can just turn her around. The front bumper isn't sprung, but it's very soft, and there's 2 screws underneath, which just hold it on, and then there's a pin through the front. So you probably need to take the pin out before you take the bumper off, and then the 2 screws on the bottom. And everything else is, yeah, fairly straightforward. So I'm going to put the shell back on, and we can flip her over and have a look underneath. Good, so the shell is back on, and a little jump cut, obviously. So we're just going to flip her over, him over, her, it, whatever. I was like, well, I'm going to point, but it's easier if I use the pen so you can actually see where I'm pointing. We have a power switch, little red power switch, black and red, very 80s. So we have on and off. We have low and high. So despite whatever you have set on your controller in terms of turbo and going forward, you've got low and high range. at the back, which is kind of cool. You also have here, you have a steering adjustment. So if it's kind of off a little bit, you can adjust it. Kind of cool little feature. Again, you got the two screws here at the front, which hold the bumper on, and then 2 screws for the steering arrangement at the front. You also have the battery bay here, and the warning stickers. Oh, the warning stickers. Yep, you better believe it. They want you to use nickel cadmium. You've got a port for the dry cell 9-volt battery, and that is, where's positive? Positive is, oh, but we're going to put a battery in. So let me just bonk. Yeah, great. And then we can let's just do this as chum. So here's the battery holder, and it looks a lot like the standard battery pack that you would get. The battery pack's covered in rubber. This one isn't. It's got a door on the front. It's got a warning sticker on there. It's got another warning sticker on here, and it's got the same connector as the battery pack would have. The battery pack is a 7.2 volt pack. The battery holder holds 6 AA's, and they're very specific about this. 4 AA NiCad battery only in the gold at the top, and it says 6 AA batteries. Always NiCad. Do not use dry cell or alkaline AA. Very, very specifically in Japanese. What do they say on the back? Ooh. I think they say, is it upside down? I don't know. NiCad battery drives the car. That's as much as I could get from that. Again, all in Japanese. So if we open it up, we have 6 AA NIMH batteries, because NIMH and NiCad output 1.2 volts, and with 6 of them gives you 7.2 volts. If I were to use something like a store-bought alkaline battery, that would give us 1.5 volts, and 6 of these would give us 9 volts. So 9 volts compared to 7.2 volts, you have to use rechargeable batteries. You cannot not use rechargeable batteries. So put that in, flip her over, put the battery back in. So delivery was out, wasn't it? Yes. So get the positive and negative in the right way round. That's kind of hard to do over the camera. Then we put this in, and now it's curved on one side and flat on the other. The battery pack is basically the same. So I'm going to put that in with the tail poking out. I'm going to put the battery door back on. The battery door has a little detent, or a little dent. The next thing I need to do is connect the battery connector. Here we go. So all you do is go like that. You got a little catch at the top. And then what we used to do in the 80s is not leave that sticking out. No. Or maybe it was the 90s. Did I get one second hand? Oh my God, was it second hand? Probably. You just tuck that under the car. Bonk, done. Super clean, super easy. Ah, so fresh and so clean. Look at that, it's beautiful. So I guess all we need to do now is drive it. Is there anything else we need to look at in terms of kind of cautionary tales? No, I think we covered everything. We covered the tires, we covered the battery connectors, battery pack, battery holder, little windscreen, stuff that could get scuffed. I think we're ready to drive it, you know. All right, so we have a car, we have a little controller here, and I'm just going to give it a little tickle. Backwards, forwards and backwards. Yeah, it works. Well, thank you for joining us. If you like that video, definitely leave a little like, leave a subscribe, and if you do subscribe, click the little bell because that'll give you notifications when videos go live. And I tell you what, I'll catch you next time. Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Nikko Typhoon. Oh, I've got it upside down.